What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel. And I think it's time we had a bit of a talk about Mikel Arteta. And I want to go back a little bit. First of all, the fact that we were top of the table at Christmas, I was really happy about it. We hadn't clicked into gear this season. We didn't look as exciting and as scintillating. But Man City had a little blip, and Liverpool, although strong, weren't top yet. And we'd lost away to Newcastle. That was a highly controversial goal that we conceded. Perhaps you think it should have stood, perhaps you don't. But it's gone now, and VAR is boring. Let's not talk about that. We also lost away to Aston Villa, and that was frustrating because we definitely played better than them and had that last-minute goal disallowed because everybody handballed it in the area. So there was reason to think that we weren't going to lose many games, and we were top of the table. And then the blip started. And it feels like Arsenal fans, we're used to it. There's always a blip, right? We flattered to deceive. You think that we've put it all behind us, and then either in November or December, bam. And so it was again. A hugely shocking defeat at home to West Ham. Came out of nowhere. We were all over them, but we couldn't put our chances away. And this was a continuation of a conversation people have been having because we haven't been as free scoring up to now this season. And so, of course, people said that in the January transfer window, if we were going to have any chance at all of winning the Premier League, then we were going to need to go out and sign Ivan Toney or Victor Osimhen or Pele, I don't know. Just anyone that was good in front of goal. We were linked with everybody. But a West Ham game was, you could feel like it was an anomaly. Then we went away to Fulham and it was lackluster, it was tired, it was lacking in ideas, and it just didn't seem like Arsenal anymore. We had a short break, and then, of course, we had a chance to redeem ourselves by winning the FA Cup because we'd already gone out of the League Cup playing our second-string side to West Ham. I know it's a tradition at Arsenal to play a second-string side, but Arteta, of course, came under huge pressure because at the end of the day, Arsenal fans, like any other fans, want us to win leagues. So the fact that we had not put our best foot forward in the League Cup kind of looked like it was going to come back to haunt him. And in that game against Liverpool, wearing the surrender kit, the white surrender kit, which I never want to see again, has no place at the Emirates. Sorry, I get that it's an initiative and you're trying to make a point, but maybe just take some of the gate receipts and give it to the charities rather than wearing this ridiculous kit, which we never play well in. Anyway, I digress. But we got beaten by a Liverpool team, which on the day were not the better team, but yet again we failed to score. And the mood in the fan base definitely took a turn for the worse. Lots of people started to question whether Arteta was the right guy because our title hopes had gone. And then the decision to go to Dubai and have a jolly instead of punishing the players with winter break training, allowing the families to go as well, it made it all feel a little bit like they were celebrating rather than being punished and working doubly hard to come back. Coming back from that break, though, we did beat Palace 5-0. And, of course, everyone said, well, it's Palace, isn't it? Then we beat Nottingham Forest, and it wasn't convincing enough. And then we played Liverpool at home. And I think I was expecting us to beat Liverpool. I didn't think Jurgen Klopp's side were unbeatable, although they had only lost one game all season, and that was an even more controversial VAR decision. So you could see that everybody was super happy after the Liverpool game and of course, as we all know, celebrated far too much. Just not proper. Now, I'd done a poll just after the Liverpool game, which asked the question, do you think Arteta is the man for the job or not? And I was expecting a number of people to say no, but the fact that it was about 70-30 in split really surprised me. And I think it gave me the feeling that 30% of our fan base don't believe in Mikel Arteta. Now, the question isn't broad enough to establish whether they think he should be sacked or not. But certainly, if you don't think he's the guy to bring us a Premier League title, that's what we really want at the club. So it is implied. But I kind of took it that there were a bunch of people in that group. And I want to hear from you if you're one of them. Let's hear from you in the comments. If you have anti-Arteta feelings, but you're prepared to give him a bit longer, or if you really want him gone as soon as possible, if you think he's a charlatan and a fraud. But I was surprised that the mood had got this bad because I think at some point, if it tips over, if 50% of the fan base want you out, it's hard to survive that. The reality of being a football manager is that if the board turns against you, you can lose your job. If the fans turn against you, you can lose your job. But most quickly, you will lose your job if the players turn against you. And I didn't get a sense of that. I didn't feel like these players who he'd brought in large part were turning against the process or Arteta himself. But the fans had begun to grumble, and it was difficult coming so close last season. It was a real challenge to be 8 points clear and throw it away. It was a young team and a young and experienced manager. And let's be honest, at the start of the season, if you'd said that we were going to finish second, most of us would have bitten your hand off for it. But by the time it happened and you have to live through that, it did feel like a bit of a kick in the stomach. And those kind of feelings obviously resurfaced when we had our blip and it looked like we'd fallen completely out of the title contention. Beating Liverpool went a long way to putting that right, but then the fear kicked in again. How many times have we seen us do something like that, get a great performance against Liverpool and then not quite follow it up? Well, on Sunday we went away to West Ham, our bogey team of the season, had knocked us out of the League Cup and of course delivered that 2-0 defeat at our place. And we had revenge on our minds, and nobody expected us to perform as well as we did. We had so many players out. We were missing such key players for the game, and yet we were able to win 6-0. And this was important for a lot of reasons. One, the criticism about us not being able to score. Well, we're now the second top scoring team in the Premier League. Our goal difference is level with Man City. We're 2 points off the league leaders. And we have a run of games coming up before we play Man City, which are eminently winnable. We've definitely seemed to get our mojo back. And the excitement in watching West Ham fans file out at half-time. Not near the end, but half-time. The jubilation amongst the Arsenal fans and everywhere I've gone and everyone I've talked to has been really positive. So I did another poll and I asked the question again. Is Arteta the man for the job? Now, I realise it's vague. It's not asking if you think he should be sacked. But it's still 70-30. So what I'm starting to think is those of you that are definitely Arteta out, who don't think he's good enough, are entrenched in your positions and you're not going to budge. And I wonder if, and please, again, let me know in the comments, if Arteta wins the Premier League, would you change your mind? But I want to be absolutely clear about this. I believe that Arteta has achieved progress at the club. I remember back to when he took over just 4 years ago. And the position we were in then is incontrovertibly worse than the position we're in now. Finishing 8th outside the European places to finishing 2nd, we can all agree that's progress. So I want to kind of be objective about this, and I want really to understand what your problem with Arteta is, because I'm not sure he's the man to win the Premier League. And I dearly want us to win the Premier League. One thing that has occurred to me since I've started talking to people who want him out is there doesn't seem to be an obvious contender to take over if he did go. Now look, I've said this before. If Pep Guardiola really wanted to be Arsenal manager, I think Arteta would have to step aside. He is one of the great managers of all time. Jurgen Klopp has already said categorically he will never manage another English team than Liverpool. So he's out of the question, and I think he would be the other one that I would definitely instill. After that, I don't really know who you're recommending for the job, but let's leave that to one side. What are the criticisms about Arteta? What has he not done well enough? Last season, we scored more goals than we've ever done before in the Premier League. Sunday, we beat West Ham 6-0 to record our best away league performance in the Premier League. Arteta has more points from his first 200 games than Arsene Wenger did, and this is his 4th full season. Even Jurgen Klopp hadn't won the Premier League in his first 4 seasons. And it feels like the main criticism of Arteta is that people don't think he's going to win the Premier League. And I think that is an incredibly high bar to set anybody. I want to run through some things which I think illuminate just how difficult that is. Since the 92-93 season, the inception of the Premier League, only 11 managers of 279 who have managed, only 11 managers have ever won the Premier League. 11. There are only 11 men in history who've won the Premier League. So when you're on various platforms saying, clip this, Arteta won't win it, balance of probabilities in your favour, isn't it? Given that 4% of all the managers who've ever tried to win a Premier League have done it, it doesn't mean Arteta's a bad manager if he hasn't won it yet in his first 4 years in management. I'm not saying I think he definitely will. I think there are loads of reasons to think it's going to be a really difficult challenge this season. And the big one is Pep Guardiola, the best manager who ever lived, with arguably the best Premier League side there's ever been. So people tend to criticise Arteta because he hasn't won the Premier League. And the next big thing I always hear when criticising Arteta is, look at the money he spent. Now, of course, money in football has just become ridiculous, and it's only going to get more ridiculous. But I wanted to take a good look at it because when you looked at the Arsenal team that lined up against Liverpool, it's worth remembering that the first team that we put out cost a combined total of 393 million. Now, 37 million of that wasn't spent by Arteta. The rest was Saliba and Gabriel. That 37 million we spent on those two, bargain, by the way, had nothing to do with Arteta. Liverpool's team on the day, missing as it was, missing Salah and Thiago and Szoboszlai, was worth 328 million. So about a 65 million euro discrepancy. On the subs bench, we had 89 million euros worth of talent and they had 120, which reduces it down a little bit. So in total, our first team squad, with subs unused or not, was 482 million to Liverpool's 452 million. And on the day, I don't think there was that slight a difference between it. I think you'd have to say Arteta has put a pretty good team together. And when you look at Manchester City, and bear in mind that Manchester City bought a lot of their big players, the Kevin De Bruyne's and the Rodri's, before the market was as inflated as it is now. And when you look at Caicedo, how much he went for. But on the day, we beat them 1-0. And this is something else worth noting if you don't like Arteta. This season, he's beaten Manchester City, the reigning European champions. He's beaten Sevilla, the reigning Europa Cup champions, and demolished West Ham, who are the Conference League champions. So we've beaten all three European champions in the same season. I know that's not enough on its own, but the Man City team that we beat 1-0 when they visited the Emirates, our first team cost 387 million to put together. Theirs cost 458 million. So despite being about 70 million quid more expensive just in the first team players, we still managed to restrict them, barely had a shot, and we beat them 1-0 with that wonderful goal. It was a combination of Partey, Tomiyasu, Havertz. Look, it's a great goal. We all remember it, right? But on the subs bench is where you really start to see the gap widening. Our subs bench that day, and it did include Thomas Partey, who's obviously been injured for the rest of the season, and Fabio Vieira, who's also, God knows what's happened to him. But our bench was 238 million. Theirs was 378 million. On the day, their squad cost 211 million pounds more to assemble than ours, and that's without 70 million pound Rodri and 76 million pound Kevin De Bruyne. In our injured list was just 40 million for Yuri and Timber. So you see there is a massive gulf. And when you're saying that Arteta spent a lot of money, he has, but he just hasn't spent a lot of money relative to the teams that are currently above us, or the one team that's currently above us. I think we'll overhaul Liverpool. In fact, when you look at the squads, we're not that far away. Man United and Chelsea have spent about £1 billion each. Newcastle on 570 million, Spurs on 715 million. It's about 50 million less than we've spent, and they're miles off us. I get that you don't like Arteta. I just don't get why. I hear it every day. I hear people telling me. In fact, in the comments of the poll, someone put, he's done. Last season, he blew a 12-point lead and we're 5 points behind Man City. Forgive me, I don't know you. I can't remember your name. But check it out. It's on the poll. That's the comment. He's done. Last season he blew a 12-point lead, and this season we're 5 points behind Man City. Well, just a quick fact check. Before you stick your opinion down, you might just want to look some stuff up or know some stuff. First of all, our lead last season was 8 points at most, and it was hard to blow that. Of course it was, but we blew it to the treble winners. Second of all, we're not 5 points behind Man City. We're 2 points behind. Yeah, if they win their game in hand, we're 5 points behind. But if some buts were pots and pans and blah, blah, blah. I want to finally settle on some things here to make the case that I think Arteta deserves more time, which I think is a ridiculous case to have to make for a guy who's led us to the second most goals scored and the leanest defence this season. I know people are saying we're not going to make it in the title race. They were saying that last season as well. They said, oh, you were top of Christmas, but you won't be top near the end. We lasted, we just didn't win the thing. This season, they said we wouldn't be anywhere near it. We might not finish top 4. And I think you have to say they're still kind of wrong, aren't they? We are still in this challenge. We do have a chance of winning it. The league is still in our own hands. I'm not saying I think we're going to win the Premier League. I'm saying if we win all of our remaining games, including the away trip to Man City, we will win the league. Fingers crossed on that one. I'm not saying I believe it. But when people say, oh, he hasn't won us a trophy, he has. He's won a trophy. And I know that that doesn't feel like enough to a lot of you, but I want to remind everybody that since he took over, there have been 12 available trophies. Liverpool and City have won the league. Manchester United, Liverpool and City have won the League Cup. And City, Liverpool, Leicester and Arsenal have won the FA Cup. So it's not like everyone else has been winning trophies. Trophies are really difficult to win. That's why only 11 men in the history of the Premier League have ever won the Premier League. I think if your yardstick for measuring Arteta is that he hasn't won anything, he has. If your other yardstick is he's too young and too inexperienced, then isn't that even more miraculous? That a man so inexperienced can spend 50% less on a squad and still beat City. Not just at home in the league, but also in the Community Shield. In fact, had it not been for us beating City, they would have won the Sextuple. I'm really keen to hear from you. Have I missed something? Did he upset you in some way? He's got the stadium buzzing. I know people get upset because of Win the Dog and all kinds of stuff like that. I don't care. We can have Win the Dog, Win the Zebra. I don't care what he does to bring harmony into that stadium and amongst those players. Take them all away to Dubai every year. I don't care. What I'm interested in is, why do you care so much? What's he done that convinces you? Because if you're going to sit there and say, clip this, you ain't going to win the Premier League. Yeah, the odds are pretty strong in your favour. Man City are favourites for a reason. But I want to hear some reasons. I want to hear some logic. So, get in the comments. Let me know what I'm missing. Let's have a debate. We're doing a live on Thursday. If you want to jump on and talk to me about it, we'll have a debate. We love each other. It's Arsenal. I don't hate any of you. We can disagree. Just like people do sometimes disagree. We don't have to become angry or shouty or vitriolic about it. I'm prepared to accept that you might say something that could change my mind. If you can come with the same open mind, then let's see if we can have a debate. Anyway, let me know in the comments if you're up for that. Get in touch. Thank you for your likes and subscribes. Arteta in? I am. Are you? Let me know. Till I see you again. Be lucky. Lots of love.